I'm just a kid. I'm just a kid with a husband. Child bride.
I was listening to the maintenance phase about Russell Brand, and I momentarily blipped into my brain about the thing about him briefly dating a 16-year-old because of the age of consent in England is 16, and I was like, where did it? And it came back around. Also, this week I was talking to people about the fact that Brigham Young would marry girls who were like 14, 15, so he could have sex with them once and then refuse to divorce them.
Yes, that's typical Mormon.
Yeah. Oh, horrible week for the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Oh my god, a second plane has hit Bachelorette Towers.
What was the first one?
I feel like the first one was just people being like, oh, they've sold out. Like,
sure.
They're doing this, like, basically just like promotional stint with Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and their whole franchise is shifting, and then it's like, actually, no fucking season for you.
I know. Well,
it would have been amazing TV. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah, the whole thing is just so horrible. And I also didn't know about, I was listening to the Worst of Possible Worlds episode they did with Peter Shamshiri about the traitors, and they were talking about Colton Underwood. And do you know who that is when I say Colton Underwood?
He's like the Bachelor guy, right? Is he the one who's gay?
Yeah, so he was like an evangelical Christian who has come out as gay since. And what I didn't know is that, like, he, like, stalked the woman who, I can't remember if she was the one who won his season of The Bachelor, or if it was The Bachelorette when he won The Bachelorette, but he, like, stalked her, and I didn't know about that at all.
Well, that's why it's so crazy, because I know a little bit about that, and just people being like, yeah, like, cool that he's out now, but also he did some really fucked up things.
Yeah, I mean, that is also a thing that I was talking about this week is just, sometimes we let people get away with past because they were like, I was working out being gay, and it's like, that doesn't excuse the crimes that you did before.
Right.
Speaking of the crimes that you did before not being excused.
Hello and welcome to Informed Attraction. I'm Dr. Aubrey Hoffer.
What is this podcast about, Aubrey?
This is a podcast about how sometimes Joss Whedon is evil. And
Sometimes.
And Mackenna might have killed the actor who played Xander.
Oh my god, I'm Mackenna Goodrich. I did not.
I'm Dr. Aubrey Hoffer, who I am 1 degree of separation from, by the way.
In no point in that thread of text messages did I say the name Xander. But an Aubrey texts me such a jarring way to find out that someone has died, by the way. So I have seen, we're talking about Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer today, and I started watching, so I'd only ever seen the first season of the show, and Spike doesn't show up till the second season. So I started watching the second season this week, and I was texting Aubrey my thoughts, and then I get a text from Aubrey. Texting Aubrey all my thoughts about what's going on with Spike, Angel, and Drusilla. And then Aubrey texts me, the guy who played, all caps, the guy who played Xander died today. You killed him, which is the most harrowing way I could have found out that a man was dead.
Yes, you did kill him.
Oh my god, no I didn't.
I mean, here's the thing. He was dying. Yeah, so Nicholas Brendan, he really struggled with addiction and had a lot of health issues, likely as a result of his addiction. Very kind of complicated legacy that he has kind of left behind him. A lot of very kind messages from the cast of Buffy, basically being like, this was somebody who I cared about a lot. Like, wonderful message from David Boreanaz, who they notoriously had a really bad relationship. And I thought that his post that he did about him was very, very thoughtful. And I think it just goes to show that, like, even if there's, like, I don't know, tension between people, like, you still feel something when they die.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, they worked together for a long time, and, like, in many ways, like, I mean, David Boreanaz went on to have Bones afterwards, which I like, to me, he was the guy from Bones, not the guy from Buffy. But for a lot of people, like, the things that Nicholas Brennan and David Boreanaz are the characters from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And so it's like, when your identity is also so tied to somebody else in many ways, I think it's really, really hard.
Yeah, a director I work with out here, he was in one of his films, and so the director I work with made a post about working with him, and he's told me a little bit about this in the past, and basically just said he was super nice, warm guy, but everybody would come up to him and ask him about Buffy and talk to him about Buffy, and he was apparently always really gracious. Like, I guess he, like, sang and danced the little song that they do in the musical episode of Buffy, and, like, just seemed like he was a really good sport about it. So that was really kind of nice to hear, because if you are plugged into any of the celebrity gossip, there are not very many like kind and nice stories about him, but the person who I know personally who worked with him really spoke quite well of his experience with him, which is not to say that he is like exonerated or never did anything like wrong or bad or problematic. I just think people are just complicated. Addiction is complicated.
Addiction is complicated. It's a disease. What's funny for me about that too is similarly with David Boreanaz, like with me and Nicholas Brennan, like again, I didn't watch Buffy for the first time until like a couple years ago. And so for me, he's Garcia's boyfriend later on in Criminal Minds. And so that's how I was introduced to him. And so I remember watching Buffy for the first time. And I was like, so for me, Buffy watching it at the beginning was Sarah Michelle Gellar, who is Daphne from Scooby-Doo. Willow, Allison Hannigan, who is How I Met Your Mother. Nicholas Brendan, who is Garcia's boyfriend on Criminal Minds. And Rupert Giles, who is the evil ex-husband on Ted Lasso. And I was like, I know all of you from other places. And David Boreanaz, who is Bones is not, I don't know. I kind of forget if there's a will. No, there is a will, they won't they, between him and Bones on Bones. So that was, I was like, well, okay, these are all people I know from other things. And to many people, this is the thing that they're from.
Yeah.
But also kind of cool that they all, in many ways, went on to have like careers after Buffy, which does not always happen for people who are on like big TV shows.
Yeah. So for anybody who's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't know what Buffy the Vampire Slayer is. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a supernatural teen drama that follows Sarah Michelle Gellar playing Buffy Summers, who is a teenage girl who is chosen to fight vampires, demons, and other forces of darkness. The show is created by Joss Whedon. It's really cool because it blends horror, comedy, coming-of-age storytelling, and uses monsters frequently as metaphors for things that are real-life struggles, like with identity, relationships, growing up. It's an excellent show where I think the beginning of it starts as much more fun and comedic, and then as you watch it, Joss Whedon loves to torture that girl so goddamn much.
The problem with all of these shows for me where you have things like this is it's like, it gets to a point where you're like, where you're just like, all of you need to get out of this.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, I wouldn't want to be... Like, all of them have had, like, significant others die in horrible ways. Like, it just becomes, I'm like, it's the same way I feel about Grey's Anatomy, where it's like, you guys gotta make a life change, but it's the only way to keep a show going is to keep having drama happen, and a lot of that is people dying.
Yeah, so the way that I would also describe Buffy is that there's this, like, the writing is very sharp. I will always give Joss Whedon credit for the fact that I think that he, at least in the writing of Buffy, it's very well written.
Aubrey loves Joss Whedon and everything about him, actually. Aubrey is a huge Joss Whedon stan. She thinks he's never done anything wrong. He always treats people well on set. He has never made anyone uncomfortable, and he definitely was allowed to be alone with Michelle Trachtenberg.
Yeah, there's a deep investment in the psychology of the characters in Buffy, particularly in this theme of blurring the line between hero and monster. Because when the show starts, you get this message of all vampires are evil. Buffy is chosen to kill all the vampires because they are evil.
All vampires are evil except for the one. From the beginning, there's the one that's not evil, and he has the real on-the-nose name of Angel.
Not all vampires.
As long as they're named Angel.
Angel, so... here's the thing, guys. I'm gonna make some hot takes in the Buffy fandom in this episode, and I've never claimed that I'm the end-all be-all of everything.
That's not true. Aubrey texts me every day and says if someone disagrees with me, they should be shot and killed. I have this in writing many times.
You know what? I've never been wrong before, and I am right about everything.
There we go.
So I'm not gonna be here. I will not sit here and be like, Buffy forever. I think that the relationship between Spike and Buffy is incredibly compelling. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, this is a good relationship or this is a good representation of a relationship. I think part of why the relationship between those two characters works so well is because they have insane chemistry. Those are amazing actors with really good chemistry. I think David Boreanaz is great. I do think that he has no chemistry with Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, I don't really think they have chemistry either. And again, and it's so weird for me because he has such good chemistry with Emily Deschanel on Bones.
Because she likes a blonde man and he likes a brunette woman. And when you put them together, it's too much competition. That's why the chemistry is there with her and Spike and with him and Bones.
Ugh.
You need blondes with blondes, brunettes with brunettes.
Ugh, I can always forget. People always give people such weird names. Why is David Boreanaz's character named Seeley Booth on... Their names are Seeley Booth and Temperance Brennan.
Because if his name was John, everyone would be like...
John Wilkes Booth?
Whoa! So, to me, with Buffy, the show becomes increasingly interested in understanding what the forces of darkness actually are, especially when the villains start to be emotionally complex and compelling in the way that the heroes have been portrayed. And I think few characters embody that tension more than Spike, whose arc pushes the show to its limits and really raises this bigger question that we've been tackling for the past 2 episodes, which is what happens when a story tries to humanize a monster that it was never meant to redeem.
Aubrey, I was watching a compilation of Spike, and I have come to a conclusion.
Yes.
I think it's because a lot of them are British.
Yes, they are.
Everyone we've talked about besides Adam Driver and Zuko are British, and I think it's the accent.
They're spiritually British.
Adam Driver is spiritually British.
Yeah.
But it is.
I described Butters yesterday as spiritually obese.
Well, Butters was obese once.
I know, but she's still, in her heart, she is gluttonous.
But I was like, what is it? And I was like, oh, it's like the jokey, smooth talking British guy thing. It's they're quippy and they're British, and that's what as opposed to Giles, who's like little British guy.
Giles is so goddamn sexy, guys.
He's little British guy. And then you have like, I'm your daddy British guy with Spike.
Every time Giles talks in Buffy, I am like, show me that wiener!
Have you seen Ted Lasso?
No!
Oh, it is genuinely, I started watching Buffy. I think I was at my parents' house when I started watching Buffy. And I watched Ted Lasso with my dad. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to figure out why I know Giles. I want to not look it up. I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm like, this is freaking me out. My dad goes, I think he's also named Rupert on Ted Lasso. He's like, it's Rupert from Ted Lasso. And I was like, what? It was literally the same thing that happened to me with Matthew McFadden being both Tom and Mr. Darcy. Because the characters are so crazy different that it's like, what do you mean that's the same guy?
Acting.
What do you mean?
He's got range.
Yeah.
So Spike is one of the show's most popular and most controversial characters. He is a vampire who starts out as a chaotic, violent villain, and he gradually becomes something that I genuinely think is a lot harder to define.
Yeah.
Over the course of the series, he shifts from antagonistic to comic relief to romantic anti-hero, and he eventually becomes, I think, the emotional center of the entire show. And that evolution is what makes his storyline so compelling and also so goddamn messy.
Yeah.
He looks like Billy Idol. That was the inspiration for his whole look. He's this like punk, rebellious vampire. And then as the show goes on, his role starts to change. He gets a government implant that prevents him from harming humans. And then, of course, he's forced to be around Buffy and her friends, which lets the show explore his personality beyond just being a like pure villain. And he becomes this like funny, vulnerable, and increasingly sympathetic character. But then the show is like, hey, how about Spike falls in love with Buffy? And he does, and becomes essentially,
Yeah, I would say, interesting to say falls in love with Buffy. I would say he becomes sexually obsessed with Buffy.
Yeah, so I think there, again, much like our conversation with Snape, I think there are different ways to read it. I am not a Spike apologist. but I am a Spike sympathizer because I'm a Joss Whedon hater. And I feel whenever Spike is doing something...
I'm doing the meme of that blonde woman who has all the numbers in front of her. I'm like, okay.
Because here's the thing. Anytime somebody is trying to criticize Spike, they are proving Joss Whedon correct, and I hate that.
Okay.
So essentially the lore of this behind the scenes a little bit is that Xander in the show is the Joss Whedon stand-in.
Yeah.
Like, because he's like the nerdy human guy, and he...
Also, some of the things that Xander says throughout the show, I don't know why all these women are friends with him. I'm gonna say it. Xander says some things where I'm like, he's made one too many jokes about wanting to see his friends have sex with each other, specifically Willow and Buffy, that I'm like, hey, this isn't fun. This is something that is bad, actually. And yeah, Xander is a really tough character for me because I'm like, I would have had to end my friendship with this guy like 9 times over.
Exactly. And that's just Joss Whedon. And Joss Whedon did not want people to like Spike more than they liked Xander. But unfortunately, everybody liked Spike more than they liked Xander. And that made Joss Whedon angry. And so he had to do something to show that Spike is truly evil and to say, go fuck yourself if you liked Spike.
I know what moment you're talking about. I also don't love the whole robot of Buffy thing, which we'll get to.
We will get to it. We'll get into this now. So for this episode, I instructed Mackenna to watch a 3-episode arc of basically episodes that I thought kind of encapsulated Spike and Buffy the best. So those were Something Blue, which is season 4, episode 9, Intervention, which is season 5, episode 18, and then the infamous Seeing Red, season 6, episode 19. So I think what we'll do is I will just kind of briefly describe what happens in each episode, and then you can kind of say, like, here's what I thought of Spike, and, like, how Spike is portrayed, how his relationship with Buffy is portrayed in this episode. Because we're really trying to track, like, what is the arc of how this show writes Spike, and how it wants us as the audience to feel about Spike.
Yeah, for some secondary context also, so before the season 4 episode that Aubrey had me watch, I watched most of the episodes Spike is in season 2. He's introduced in season 2, episode 3. And in that arc, he is, I don't know how to describe him and Drusilla's relationship. He's bonded with another vampire named Drusilla who was turned by Angel when Angel was still a piece of shit. And he is like he's like known for killing Slayers. He's like one-track mind trying to kill Buffy. But then also like, okay, I'm going to put pin in the thought that I just had. And so like when then Aubrey said to me that then the arc is about him and Buffy, I was like, what do you mean? Like I like couldn't even picture it. And then what happens in this first episode Aubrey had me watch, I was like, this is so fucking confusing. The thing I was going to say is the first time Spike has the opportunity to kill Buffy in the very first episode he's in, her mom hits him in the head with an axe, and he's basically like, game recognizes game, and leaves.
Yes!
And I was like, you're trying to convince me this man is like pure evil, and mommy hits him in the head with an axe, and he's just like, you got me this time. I was like, please.
Exactly. So that is also where I make the argument that I don't think that even Joss Whedon truly believed that he always wanted Spike to be this, like, deeply evil character. I think really he wanted Spike to be a funny villain and then wanted him to be a sympathetic villain, but also just really fucking hated how great the chemistry was between Spike and Buffy, and people wanting Spike and Buffy to kiss a lot.
Well, it was interesting too because, like, you know, around the time where Spike becomes a big character is around the time that David Boreanaz basically leaves the show because they do the Angel spinoff. Mm-hmm. And
I've never seen Angel. I don't believe that he can carry the show. I'm sorry. I'm sure there's some Angel fans out there.
They made lots of seasons of it. I think they made like, what, 4?
They sure did.
It was interesting to watch them in some ways sort of rehash the like Buffy Angel thing by just having her fall like have this other relationship with another vampire. Mm-hmm. So in some ways I feel like he kind of like just moves naturally into the space in the show that Angel was occupying. Right. But sort of from the reverse direction where like Angel was a was a vampire who was really trying hard to be good. And then Spike, you have the opposite, which is he's a vampire who is trying really hard to be bad.
Yeah. And I think the relationship between Spike and Buffy is more compelling to me than the relationship between Buffy and Angel, because
Angel's a predator.
In the Buffy and Angel dynamic, he's like, I've been watching you since you were 14. And I'm like, I don't
Angel
know.
should go to prison. Angel, I know we talked about this at the end of an episode where we were talking about, like, when is it, like, what age of a vampire do you need to be chill? And you might be thinking, McKenna, Angel's like 200 years old at the start of Buffy, so it's chill. Angel canonically got turned when he was 26 American years old. That is a 26-year-old man who is sexually obsessed with a teenager. And Joss Whedon specifically has Buffy and Angel have sex for the first time on the night of her 17th birthday because the age of consent in California is 17. And I'm just saying, you know Joss Whedon knew it was weird because he waited until she was 17 for them to have sex. But also, he is canonically frozen at 26.
Yeah, I
read this crazy thread of people being like, but Buffy's already different because she's the Slayer. So, like all the age of consent law is about being old enough to consent to sex. And I was like, yeah, totally. Yes. She's like, whatever. She's different. She's special. She's still a 16, 17-year-old girl, even though she has this, like, ancient power thrust upon her. Let's just be clear about that, though.
Well, because that's the whole point of the show!
I don't like that we're doing mental gymnastics to justify why it's okay for this 26-year-old, 200-year-old man to want to have sex with the 16-year-old, 17-year-old girl. I don't like that Joss Whedon is putting his largely female audience in the position of doing the mental gymnastics to be like, it's okay for this guy to want to have sex with this girl. Why are you doing that to us?
She's really mature for her age.
Why not freeze him at 18? Why not freeze him at 17? Stephanie Meyer corrected this mistake.
Well, that's also the thing, too, is that they wanted the show to go on. So if they cast an actor who is too young to be Angel, he would age.
Yep. Well, I mean, even so, like, I mean, I was watching, I watched the second season of the show and then all the way up to an episode of the 6th season of the show. And it's like, James Marsters, he ages. He clearly looks different when he is Spike in the second season versus 5 years later when he's Spike. And it's just like, when you do vampire shit, that's bound to happen. Like,
well, like, we know we're watching a show.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, it's okay. And so I kind of wish they would, or, like, just lie to me. Lie to me and say that Angel was frozen at 18. Or 19. Why did you have to freeze him at 26? Anyway, sorry. Spike is canonically frozen, I think, at 27.
Yeah. But I think that...
But by the time him and Buffy are getting it on, she is at least in her 20s.
Yeah, she's, like, in college.
Yeah.
And I just... Yeah. And so I feel like the dynamic between Spike and Buffy, doesn't feel as bad as the dynamic between Buffy and Angel, because with Buffy and Angel, there is this, like, even if you take age out of the equation, there's still just this, like, power differential between them, where he is kind of, like, teaching her, and also he's, like, something she should be trying to kill, and, like, she's, like, very, like, wide-eyed and innocent throughout their entire relationship, whereas with Spike, at least socially, they're on a more even playing field. Yeah. And I would even argue that Buffy has more power in their dynamic when Spike has the implant where he, like, can't hurt people. And it feels like more of a relationship where they can actually have some kind of footing with each other.
She's already gone through this once with Angel.
Right.
I also think that, like, I love the episode in season 2 where we're introduced to Kendra, the other Slayer, because Buffy briefly dies and so, like, another Slayer comes to Sunnydale to basically replace her. Mm-hmm. And I love when Kendra's like, what? Like, he's still a vampire. Like, she's like, I don't care that he has a soul. He's still a vampire. Literally, your one job is to kill him. And she just reads it as it is. She's like, she's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. But he's sexy. So the first episode that I had McKenna watch is Something Blue, season 4, episode 9. The basic premise of this episode is that Willow casts a spell that makes her words come true, and it accidentally warps reality. What is fun about this episode is that she says something, it's to the effect of, like, Buffy and Spike should just get married, and Buffy and Spike suddenly believe that they're deeply in love and engaged to be married, and they act like this over-the-top couple, and it's very funny. Everyone else in the team is, like, horrified, while Buffy and Spike are just completely committed to the bit.
Giles is luckily blind at the time, so he doesn't have to see any of it.
Yeah, the episode is, like, pretty much just played for comedy, but it does some important things, which is why I chose it as the first episode to watch. It introduces the idea that Buffy and Spike have romantic chemistry, because I think everybody who's kind of into Buffy and Spike, that's, like, the first episode where you're like, oh shit, they're kind of hot when they kiss. And it just, like, lets the audience...
And they remember all of it. That's, like, the other thing. Is, like, they even after the spell is broken, they do remember all of it.
Right. And so it lets the audience enjoy them together in this, like, safe, unserious what-if scenario. And Spike is so, like, charming and funny. And, like, it's kind of just, like...
He's British.
Right. It's just, like, surprising to the audience how compatible they are when it's, like, they're pretending to be in love with each other.
But also they're, like, not compatible, too, because they're also arguing the entire time. Like, I actually think that what Joss Whedon was trying to do with that episode was be like, and that's why these two should never be together.
But unfortunately, they look really hot when they kiss.
I also find, I mean, it's also tricky because I just find that the guy who she's dating at the show in that point, Riley sucks! He's just so boring, and then you find out he's, like, what, like, secretly, like, an FBI or CIA agent?
He is spiritually a cop. He is
a cop. He's literally a cop.
I know, but he's like a secret agent, but, like, he to me is, like, a police officer.
That's a cop.
I know, but, like, it's different flavors.
Okay, sure.
Like, they want him to be, like, a James Bond a little bit, and it's like, you're like, directing traffic.
He was, like, basically, like, hired to, like, watch her.
Yes!
And it's like, so then that also feels really weird. And I think it's also not college age also, and so it's like...
Well, because he's the TA for her class.
Oh, yeah, he is a TA for her class. He's never a student. But it's just like, it's like the whole thing is just like, So anyway, so they're, like, in the midst of this... you know, like, this relationship that she's supposed to be in with Riley. It's, like, very early on. It's the first time she's dated someone who is not a vampire. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, I can go on dates during the day, which is a funny joke. Mm. But then you have this whole Spike thing going on in the middle of it, and you're like, okay, but there's this more fun thing going on over there.
Right.
Which is, as Aubrey stated at the end of our football quarterback episode, do you go with the chaotic evil man who's going to be a good time, or do you go with the tried and true, steady, nice man? And I think
not compare Riley to Matthew Stafford.
No, I would never. But partially because what you find out is that Riley has been lying to her the whole time.
Yes.
So he is so it's like, actually, no, you're actually bad.
Yes. So tell me a little bit in this episode, what did you think about the way that Spike was portrayed? And what did you feel like the writers were trying to communicate to us about this character in contrast to season 2?
Well, it's interesting because this is also the part where they, like, I didn't watch the episode, like, before this or anything, but, like, this is when they have him, like, chained up.
Yeah.
So he's very, like, he can't do anything. Mm-hmm. And so he's really there to do bits. I think this is the episode where he wants to watch TV and he's yelling to Giles and he's like, Timmy's stuck in the bloody well. But, like, I think that it's definitely, he's twofold. He's much more, like, humanized in this episode because they're, like, letting him do jokes and not just, like, snark.
Yeah. Once they start letting Spike get some zingers, the show shifts.
Yeah. And then I also think that, like, it's just such a difference because the only times you see him interact with, like, what is called, like, the Scooby Gang in season 2 is when they're fighting him. Otherwise, the scenes are, like, him and Drusilla in the weird little crypt they're living in.
Yeah.
Sometimes with Angel also there and, like, other bad vampires. Or he's, like, actively trying to kill Buffy in that moment. And that's, like, the only times we see him interact with them. And so this, for me, was the first time I saw him interact with them in a context that wasn't an active murder attempt. And so that was nice. And I do think that, like, I was interested in you having me watch this episode first, because I was like, Aubrey, what? This is a spell. But I think what was interesting about it is I think that the writers were trying to communicate that this would be a bad pairing based on the way that they bicker. But I agree with you that it's like, does set the audience up to be like, oh, isn't that interesting? When, like, I do think what they were trying to do with, like, how much they argue in that episode is to set up, like, these are two people who should never be married.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing, is that the actors have such great chemistry.
But maybe they should fuck.
Right. Like, these characters have such great chemistry together that it's like, the more the writers are trying to be like, see, it doesn't work, everyone's like, wow, this is so compelling and entertaining.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, it's fun to watch the two. This is the same in the next episode you have me watch. It's just, like, fun to have Sarah Michelle Gellar and James Marsters, like, have fun together in a scene. Yeah. And both this episode and the one you had me watch from season 5, gently encouraged me to watch from season 5. Like, there's just a lot of scenes where they're getting to, like, have a good time with each other. And then in the third episode you had me watch, they're having the worst time together, both on set and in the scene.
Yeah, that was kind of the arc I wanted to have for this. So in Something Blue, you get this just very, like, kind of comedic version of their relationship. Intervention, which is season 5, episode 18, is what I would say, like, is an episode where I think we start to see a little bit of, like, Buffy starting to reciprocate some feelings for Spike.
She kisses him on purpose at the end.
Right. And then seeing Red is where you see the complete, like, devolution of their relationship.
So I guess, Aubrey, actually, let's finish talking this arc, and then I will ask my question that I have about, like, the in between those two episodes, but we can talk about Intervention.
Yeah. So essentially in Intervention, Buffy goes on this, like, spiritual quest. Everyone's like, she's having a breakdown.
Which I, by the way, hated.
Yeah.
I hate it. Whenever they get into it's just white people shit. Whenever we get into this, like, weird, trying to bring in, like, anthropology, whenever they have people of color on this show, it usually is in this context, and it's very strange. Basically, like, she goes on this, like, spirit quest, and then they have, like, the first Slayer be like a black woman with, like, traditional face paint on, but it's, like, very vague. Like, it just feels so mysticism-y and, like, not fetishisy is the weird word, is not the right word, but it's just, like, I don't know. Culturally appropriative is maybe the best thing, but also, like, culturally flattening, because it just feels like they're making shit up. So maybe if I watched more of the show, I would see more of the through lines. Maybe someone who's an anthropologist who has watched Buffy has a different opinion on this. But I just felt like, why are we doing this?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Part of why I picked this
there's so many blendings of, like, different, like, native cultures too, and sort of portraying. It just made me be like, I don't think that we already have Joss Whedon basically writing from the perspective of a teen girl, which I think is weird. Yeah. And now we also have him being like, and what if it was every native religion had something to do? And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, part of why I picked this episode is because I think this episode is kind of bad, except for the last scene with Spike and Buffy, which I think is, like, one of the important turns of their relationship. Mm-hmm. But I think it's good to humble us a little bit about what kind of writer Joss Whedon is. Because also, in this episode, Spike is given a robot version of Buffy.
No, Aubrey. Do not say given. So basically, there's this fucking guy, Warren, who becomes, like, a big villain in the next season. Yeah. But he has built a robot that's a very, like, realistic looking robot. And then Spike basically threatens him into building a Buffy robot. Yeah. He's not given it. He requests and, in fact, demands it under threat of killing Warren.
Yes. The writers have given him the Buffy bot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spike did demand the Buffy bot in order to live out his fantasy relationship with Buffy, because at this point he is obsessed with her.
Yeah, and I would say specifically, sexually obsessed with her.
Yeah.
Because all of the things he wants the Buffy bot to do are, like, fight him, and then he gets to overpower her and they fuck. Like, that's what the Buffy bot is there to do, is for them to fight. And then for her to go, Spike, I actually don't want to kill you. I want to have sex with you instead. And then they have sex a whole bunch.
Yeah. And this episode is bad because all of that is kind of just played for laughs.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird. And it makes the end of the episode, like I get what you're saying, but, okay, so basically, whatever. So Buffy bot. He's having sex with the Buffy bot. Then the Buffy bot, like, escapes containment, basically, and then interacts with the Scooby Gang, and they're like, something weird is going on with Buffy. And then Buffy gets back from her vision quest, and they're like, oh, that's because that's a Buffy bot. Because the Buffy bot is, like, wearing pink and is like, Willow, you're my best friend. And everyone's like, something's wrong with Buffy. And it's like, okay.
Also, I just think it's fucked up that I feel like all of her friends are kind of like, something's a little off. And Spike is the one who immediately knows at the end he's not talking to the Buffy bot anymore.
Well, he doesn't, though. He does it by kissing her, and I imagine the body temperature is different. Okay, here's the thing about this, to me specifically. So many, and this happens, like, throughout every episode I watch. So many weird things have happened to these guys, and they're always still just like, something strange seems like it's going on. And it's like, you all need to be a lot more suspicious. You all need to be a lot more on edge and more like people are taking over other people and something is wrong with like everyone is way too just like everything's normal. And it's like, you all need to be acting a lot more suspicious, even by the time we get to season 2. But anyways, so then they like discover that Spike, they see Buffy Bot and Spike having sex in the graveyard. That doesn't raise any alarms for anybody. They're just like, that's Buffy and Spike having sex, I guess, because Buffy's grieving at the time. And then they're like, I guess she's having sex with Spike out of grief. Sure. Then basically Buffy finds out that like Spike has done this, blah, 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 blah. While they're fighting Glory, who's a god, the Buffy bot gets hurt, and Willow, you see Willow trying to fix it. And then the next scene, which is the last scene of the episode, what you think is the Buffy.
We can't skip over. Glory captures Spike and tortures him
yes.
for information about Buffy. And Spike refuses to give Buffy up, even under extreme torture. And so he gets his shit fucking rocked.
Yes. And so basically the Buffy bot goes, what you think is the Buffy bot, goes to his crypt to be like, are you okay, Spike? Do you want to fuck me now? And he's like, no, the shit just got beat out of me. I don't want to have sex with you right now, actually.
It's the fucking meme where it's like, not now, kitten.
Yeah, exactly. And then, not now, kitten. Daddy just got his shit rocked. And then, like, she's like, why did Glory do that to you? And he's like, well, because I wouldn't give her information about Dawn, who is, this is too much, we don't need to get into that.
Yeah.
I didn't give her the information she wanted. And the Buffy bot is like, I can go tell her now. And he's like, no, you can't tell her. You can never tell her because then it would cause harm to Buffy. And like, I would never do anything to hurt Buffy. And so then the Buffy bot kisses him. And upon the Buffy bot kissing him, he realizes it is not the Buffy bot. It is real Buffy pretending to be Buffy. Yeah.
I think that this is an important episode because, so also, one of the things that Buffy says to Spike is she's like, what you did, that was real. And she's
like, well, because first she is like, hey, you building a sex robot of me is really scary and that thing has been destroyed. Yeah. But what you did for me with Glory was real.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, yes, that's so true. I still think I'm really scared of the guy who has the sex robot built of me.
Yeah.
I'm not, similar with like the creepy shit that Xander says, I'm not getting over that easily.
No, and I think that is valid.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the many reasons why I'm glad that the Buffy reboot is not happening. Yeah. There's various reasons why you can't capture the original, like, writing of Buffy in a modern context, because a lot of it is just misogyny.
Yeah. Also, again, with a vampire, like, James Marsters is in his 60s, I think.
Right.
Like, you can't, they're all human now. Like, boring.
Yeah. So I thought that this was a good episode, too, because it's one of the first times that the show really legitimizes Spike's feelings.
Yeah.
Prior to this, his, like, obsession with Buffy is played as, like, creepy or comedic, and this is, like, the first time where it's like, he's, like, proven that he's not just, like, sexually obsessed with her because he's willing to go through this torture and, like, not give up Buffy. Like, what the show is trying to tell you is that it's not just a surface-level obsession. He has a deep feeling for Buffy, and Buffy acknowledges his humanity at the end of this episode, and it really just, like, So I think the actual, like, plot of what happens, of, like, Spike having a sex doll of Buffy, is really fucked up and bad. If we disentangle a little bit of Joss Whedon being a fucking weirdo, I think that we see between the lines that, like, the audience is supposed to, like, respect Spike for this.
Yes. No, totally.
Again, this is where I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to be like a Snape apologist, but I do feel like with Buffy a little bit, I'm just like, Joss Whedon is sometimes bad at writing.
A Snape apologist?
Well, because, like, you know how, like, Snape apologists are like, no, guys, like, you have to read between the lines, and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of feel like I'm doing that with Spike, but it feels more justified because it's like, it's many years of a piece of media and a writer who has a weird contentious relationship with all of his characters.
Yeah, I think the thing that, like, that's the thing that's, like, unfortunate about this episode for me.
Yeah.
Is, like, there is this, like, real, and I mean, she does sort of address it at the end. Like, there is this real thing that he does for her. And, like, it is clear that he is, like, does really care about her. And I think there's a way in which you redo this episode so that he's not having sex with her, but everyone assumes that's what he's doing with this Buffy doll, when really he just wanted to spend time with her.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, and that would still be scary, obviously, but, like, I think there's a way that you can, like, still have the sex jokes in this without the actual thing because then, like, now it's like, it's really weird because he built a doll with the purpose of, like, seeing and having sex with, like, that's really creepy and scary, which really undermines then for me any relationship progression they're gonna have, even though there is a real core of this. And I think there is something that's, like, still deeply fucked up, but, like, there's something about, like, if it would have been like I want to just have, like, some regular moments with Buffy, and so I had Warren build a doll of her that's just, like, wants to spend time with me.
Yeah,
that's, like, still incel-y and creepy, but at least isn't like, yeah, I built a fuck doll of you that I could have sex with a whole bunch, because it's just like, then it's just like, yikes, I don't know how I can get over this. But it's also because he is one of these morally complex characters where, like, his morality is just not what a human being would consider moral at all, is partially what they're doing with him.
Right. So the kind of answer to the question of, like, what is their dynamic life like between Something Blue and Intervention, basically Spike gets increasingly more obsessed with Buffy. Buffy does not reciprocate any of Spike's feelings. Like, she basically sees him as, like, annoying, soulless, morally beneath her, but then you start to see, like, some cracks in the armor of, like, her relying on him in certain situations or recognizing his loyalty.
And does he have the chip during Intervention? I
think so. He gets it after Something Blue, and I genuinely don't remember how. I just don't remember when. I rewatched these episodes, but it's been a minute since I've rewatched Buffy.
I think he does have it during Something Blue. Hold on.
Oh, he might. I mean, that might be why he's.
That might be why he can't. Yeah. But they still have him. Hold on. He gets it in the 7th episode of season 4.
Okay, so, like, an episode or 2 after, basically.
No, 2 episodes before.
Oh!
He has it in his head 2 episodes before Something Blue.
Oh, okay. My bad, guys.
Oh, but they don't know. They don't know that he's gotten the chip in his head, I think, in Something Blue.
Right, because he gets it put in, and then he's with them, and then they're like, oh, you can't, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'm more curious, though, about their dynamic between Intervention and Seeing Red. Because that, to me, there is, I guess, trigger warning, when we start talking about Seeing Red, there is an act of sexual violence in Seeing Red. And to me, what he does in Intervention is, in its own way, an act of sexual violence to, like at least, like, stalker behavior. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious about how their relationship develops between these 2 episodes, so that what he does because she seems shocked by what he does in Seeing Red. And what he's doing in Intervention, what he does in Seeing Red doesn't feel that shocking, considering he's already kind of tried to have sex with her without her consent.
Yeah, I probably could have given you another episode in season 6 that showed more of their relationship, but basically, like, at the end of season 5, Buffy dies. So...
Right.
Spike.
Yes.
So Spike protects Dawn. He's super loyal to Buffy. His like devotion to her is very much solidified.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially in season 6, Buffy is resurrected and she comes back. She's depressed, she's numb, she's disconnected from everybody, and she doesn't feel like she belongs in the world anymore. And she turns to Spike because he's the only person who gets it, because he exists outside of like normal humanity. He understands darkness and alienation, and importantly, he's like the only fucking person who doesn't expect her to be okay. Everybody else kind of expects her to just like be okay after she died and got resurrected for like the fucking 3rd time basically, and Spike is the only one who's like, hey, it's okay that you're like fucked up about this. And so they have this relationship that's like really like confessional and emotionally raw, and he just becomes the only person that she doesn't feel like she has to perform for. I probably should have given you an episode in season 6 where that's like more apparent, but I
got some of that from the conversations between her and Xander, because she like pretty explicitly says that to Xander of like, because he's like mad at her for spending time with. The episode opens with you finding out that there was a lot. Okay, so basically during this season, some of the big bads are like Warren, who's the one who built the sex robot, and these other like 2 nerdy guys called the Trio. They put a camera in, there's a character we haven't talked about who is Xander's fiance, who he then leaves at the altar. Anya.
Fucked up!
Who was a vampire who became human again, I think, right? A demon who became human again?
Yeah, she was like a demon.
Okay.
They could never make me give a fuck about Anya. Sorry, Buffy fans.
Okay. So basically, they put a camera in some place, and that camera, because the trio put a camera there to spy on Buffy, and they end up getting footage of Spike and Anya having sex with each other. And that's what you find out. That's what, like, I think that's how the previous episode ends. And so they're talking about it at the beginning of the next episode.
Yeah.
And
so the other thing I will say with like with Spike and Buffy's relationship prior to this episode is that once Spike and Buffy start having sex, Buffy.
So they are having sex.
Yes. So basically Spike and Buffy, so they have this like confessional, like really raw relationship. They start having sex, and it's portrayed as being like really intense, but also self-destructive, where Buffy is using Spike as an escape from her pain. Spike is interpreting this relationship as like, you are having sex with me because you love me, and they are fundamentally misaligned in what the relationship is. But Buffy repeatedly says, I am using you, this isn't real, I do not love you. And Spike is like, no, like, we are connected and bonded, and there is something that is, like, very emotionally deep happening here. And, like, their relationship is kind of framed as this, like, addictive, emotionally damaging, like, rooted in Buffy's depression that she's feeling. Like she is almost having sex with Spike as, like, it's, like, the only way she can feel something. And Spike is like, you are doing, like, we have something here, and I feel like you're doing this because you care for me in some way. So, like, this is, like, the weird, like, tonal contradiction of the show, where, like, their relationship is framed as unhealthy, but it's also, like, deeply meaningful for both of them. Like, Spike is the only person who she can be herself with. They are having sex. Like, she does, like, to me, my interpretation has always been that, like, she does, like, care for Spike in some way, but she is very depressed and cannot admit to herself that she is, like, having sex with him and having this deep, emotionally intimate relationship because she really does care for him. And this is, like, the time in the beginning of season 6 where Spike is the most emotionally vulnerable. Like, he has moved kind of beyond stalker in season 6, and he is expressing genuine, like, love and care for Buffy. He is, like, deeply hurt by Buffy's rejection of him, but he is seeking emotional closeness. Like, the sex is, like, not really here nor there. He wants to, like, be close to her. And episodes, like, there's one episode, Entropy, which show him as, like, being heartbroken and rejected and really desperate to be seen as, like, worthy of Buffy's love. And that is, like, pushing the audience to sympathize with him as Buffy is pushing him away. So by the time we get to seeing Red, Buffy is like, it is over now. Spike is not accepting that ending. He believes that their connection is real and inevitable. And then we get to, obviously, the, like, infamous assault scene.
Well, because when I was reading about this yesterday, they also mentioned that there's an episode earlier in the season where Buffy sort of assaults Spike, where she, like, I think it's the episode Gone where she's invisible and Spike says no and she keeps going anyway.
Yeah.
But I didn't see that episode, so I don't know that I can really speak to that. Oh, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, so that's season 6, episode 11. And yeah, so she's accidentally turned invisible. When she's invisible, she goes to Spike and initiates sex without him initially knowing it's her. He's confused and he doesn't know who's touching him. She continues despite that confusion, but again, it's played for laughs.
Right. And when he assaults her, it's definitely not played for laughs.
No,
but
hers is not framed as an assault. His almost certainly is.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that, like, feeds into the whole, like, they, like, mutually destructive relationship.
Sure. Anyways, so I'll also say that I got some context for it from the way that they talk about the relationship in Seeing Red with when she's talking to Xander about it. But yeah, I just didn't see it. That makes sense. And that gives the conversation they have during when he tries to assault her. That makes it all make a lot more sense.
Yeah, so the episode Seeing Red is about the fallout of Spike and Buffy's relationship, and essentially Spike goes to Buffy's house to convince her that they belong together, and when she refuses, he tries to rape her, and Buffy fights him off, and he stops, and he's horrified at what he's done, and I just feel like this is the show trying to make a hard moral correction, because you've had seasons of building Spike as being humanized, as growing from, like, obsessed to, like, a genuine love for Buffy, and, like, building, like, very real, like, romantic and sexual tension between those two characters, to just, like, assert, no, Spike is a dangerous person, Spike is a monster. But then it's fucked up, because then, after Seeing Red, they try to give him a redemption arc!
Well, and I mean, even in Seeing Red, this is not apologia for the scene by any means, even in this, like he is horrified at himself as it's happening, but then, it's so weird, because he's, like, in the moment, he, like, she fights him off, he, like, realizes what he's doing, stops himself also, leaves, and then he's, like, in his crypt, and then he's, like, mad at her and himself, and that's when he, like, decides to leave and, like, I think try to get the chip out of his head. Yeah. Because he's like, this is driving, like, I don't know, it's interesting, it's, like, I think he, like, is... I don't know what I'm supposed to feel about Spike at the end of this. I know I'm supposed to be like, oh, he tried to assault her and he is bad, but I even feel like in the episode, there's some weird, like, oh, but he stopped. I don't know, like, it's such a, I know that James Marsters hates this scene. Yeah. He has talked about having to go to therapy because of shooting it. Yeah. He didn't want it to happen and was like, I don't think Spike would do this. And the producers were basically like, you're under contract and have to do whatever the writers tell you to do.
Yeah. And he has it now in his contract, that he will never shoot a scene like that again.
Yeah, because it's, okay, number one,
it's like graphic, frankly. Like, it is fucking harrowing.
And also, notably, it starts and then it cuts to commercial break. And then after the commercial break, we come directly back into where we left off. And so he is like I thought what was going to happen was that, like, we were going to cut to commercial break and then come back to something else and then talk about what happened later. But it's so weird. It's so weird that was the moment where they chose to cut to commercial break. Like, and then we come back into him still attempting to assault her.
To keep him watching.
Like, and he's basically like, he's trying to assault her. He's basically like, I'm gonna like you felt this when I was inside of you and I'm gonna make you feel it again. And then there's, like, this weird moment where he, like, realizes what he's doing and then he's like, she's making me crazy. I'm gonna go, and I can't actually he's like, I'm not supposed to want to be with her. I need to, like, get her out of my head. I need to get this chip out of my head. So he, like, the end of the episode, he's, like, leaving town on a motorcycle. It's just, like...
Yeah, and then his whole thing is that Spike, he basically travels abroad to, like, get what he deserves, and he is like, I need to, like, get my soul back, essentially. So, like, he just, like, leaves to go transform and, like, get his soul back.
But it's like, I'm like, I don't...
But again, like, that also just, like, centers his pain over his victim.
Yeah. It's like, and it's such a strange thing, too, because, like, it feels weird to even be talking about this, because, like, he has tried to kill her, murder her so many times.
Yeah.
He has tried to literally end her life so many times that in some ways it's like, this is just, like, another bad thing that he does to her, and, like, but it's just different than, especially based on what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just different this time because, like, now they have this relationship. Also, like, in some ways, it's not that we see so many people die in this show. We see Buffy, I mean, like you said, like, she gets resurrected multiple times. Yeah. Death is somehow, in some ways on this show, less grave than, like, sexual violence.
Yeah.
And so it's so how long he makes us live in it. Like, it's just so bad.
Yeah, that scene is just deeply uncomfortable. It's just so long. It's so uncomfortably long.
I know. And it's just like, oh.
And then basically in season 7, Spike comes back and he now has a soul, which, like, in the logic of the Buffy universe changes his moral capacity, where it's like, oh, that Spike did that because he didn't have a soul, but now he has a soul, so he's, like, capable of being good now.
Sure?
Right.
But also, isn't this, the chip in his head supposed to stop him from hurting them? Like, because, like, I don't know why he's allowed to do that with the, like, he is trying, like, even outside of, like, trying to, like, put his dick in her, like, he is, like, hurting her, physically hurting her, and so it's like, I don't know why the chip allows it, like, it's so, like, the whole thing with the chip is that he still has the urge to hurt them, but he can't.
Yeah.
Like, he tries to punch Tara, I think, and, like, can't do it. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, why would he be, it just, like you've mentioned it before, like, it felt like a way to, like, remind us he was evil, but it also feels like the thing that he should not have been able to come back from, but also the thing that they put in his brain should have made him not able to do that.
Yeah. Well, and then it just becomes...
Are we to believe that, like, the thing, because he does stop himself when he sees that he is, like, actually hurting her.
Yeah.
And it's like, so are we supposed to believe that if the chip wasn't there, would have assaulted her? And is it him or the chip that stops him? And I know that's, like, the whole thing when I'm reading the thing about the wiki about the chip right now, and Buffy decides to take the chip out of his head.
So basically I am also doing the Googling on this too, and this is a plot hole many people have. It seems like the in-show logic is that the chip triggers when Spike intends to cause physical harm, but in that moment, Spike isn't framing his actions as violence. So it's like, it has to be like, the chip somehow knows if there's an intent of violence.
He has to believe he's trying to hurt the person. He doesn't believe... So, I mean, that kind of makes it... He doesn't believe he's trying to hurt Buffy, and then... But still, it could be the chip stopping him, because there's a moment... Like, there's there's almost like a recognition and reversal in that scene where, like, he realizes he is hurting her. And whether he stops himself or the chip stops him feels like it's up for debate.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting because, like, basically the chip is going to kill him by the end. And so Buffy is left with the decision to remove the chip or repair the chip. Mm-hmm. And she chooses to have it removed, convinced that Spike's soul would prevent him from harming humans. Because now he has his soul back, so he doesn't need the chip anymore, because he has a soul again.
Well, and I also just think it's so cheap to be like, yeah, and now he has a soul, because if we can tie it back to, like, the redemption arc with Zuko, right? Like, Zuko's redemption arc is, like, sustained accountability, having to repair the relationships, has, like, this visible internal structure, whereas with Spike, it's kind of just like, yep, I went to Thailand and backpacked for a summer, and now I've got a total new lease on life.
Well, that's also why it's like then what's the point of giving him any character development? before he goes and gets his soul, if it's just this like weird Christian religion thing of like having a soul is what makes you good.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's literally what happens with Angel, is that like in one of the last episodes of season 2 that I watched before I needed to switch to watching these 3, Angel this is crazy. When Angel does the having sex with the 17-year-old, he is so completely satisfied that he loses his soul again. Because that's like whatever the thing that like giving him the soul, whatever like weird cult that Miss Calendar is in that gave him the soul. If he has a moment of sheer contentment, he loses his soul again. And from boinking his newly of age girlfriend makes him lose his soul. And then he's evil Angel again.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just think that's so fucking boring. Because then it's like, okay, so what's the point? What's the point of doing character development with any of these characters if what really is driving their morality is the existence or non-existence of a soul?
Well, and just his consequences are so uneven, where in season 7, it's like he does feel guilty for what he's done, but like Buffy eventually just like forgives him and becomes his primary emotional anchor again. And like, there's really no social reckoning with the other characters, right? Like,
right, and like Xander knows.
But right, and the show really never goes back to the attempted assault with like the same depth or duration as like Spike's bad feelings about it are. Like, that's the thing. Like, the show spends a lot of time being like, Spike feels really bad and Spike is suffering, but like really kind of glazes over how that was traumatic for Buffy.
But this is how I know the show. This is something I know the show was made by a man.
Yeah.
Because again, I think that Joss Whedon probably views this as like another bad thing that Spike has done in a long line of bad things that Spike, like, he doesn't view all the time Spike has tried to kill Buffy and this sexual assault attempt as being any different from one another in some ways. I would be curious about. And, like, I don't think that, I mean, obviously, men can be sexually assaulted. This is not me saying men cannot be sexually assaulted. But I think that because less men are sexually assaulted and men spend less time talking with their friends about how it feels to be sexually violated, and I think men often experience less of, like, the day-to-day little sexual violences. Like, it's like, even if you're a femme person who hasn't been violently assaulted, you've probably been catcalled. You've probably had a male coworker say something really inappropriate to you. Like, you've had those, like, smaller things that, like, maybe make you be able to empathize with someone who has had capital S, capital V sexual violence happen to them. If that has not happened to Joss Whedon, he might not understand the gravity of what that does to a person and might be like, well, so many other traumatic things have happened to Buffy that this wouldn't be that big of a deal to her. And it's like, no, if someone who you trust does that to you, it fucks you up for a long time and inherently changes how you see that person.
Well, right. And I think the other issue that I have too with Spike's attempt at a redemption later in the show is that it's this thing I see in media that I always take issue with, which is that, like, if you just, like, suffer, that is atonement, rather than actually trying...
It's all this, like, very Catholic shit.
Right, like, rather than trying to, like, repair those relationships. Because the finale of Buffy, Spike sacrifices himself to save Buffy. Like,
okay.
That's, like, the last thing he does, is he essentially, like, dies in order to save Buffy. And, like, it's the classic redemption beat of, like, yeah, like, oh, I did a bad thing, I feel bad about it, I will suffer until I die, and then through death I will be atoned. And it's just like, that is not satisfying to me in the way that, like, I would have rather see him have, like, sustained accountability to Buffy, seeing their trust in each other be rebuilt, feeling that he's, like, fully reckoned with the specific harm that he has caused. But instead, the narrative just leans on, like, well, if he suffers enough and he sacrifices enough, then he can be redeemed. And it's just such a selfish way to view redemption, because it's completely disconnected from the person who you victimized.
Yeah. I also think that, like, this is another thing that, like, I was talking to someone about, Aubrey, it might have been you, but I was talking to someone about this recently about, like, even in narratives that have sexual assault in them that are directed by women, female directors / writers don't show the assault on screen, and male directors / writers have a tendency to. Male directors and writers have a tendency to think you need to see the assault happen. And I'm saying tendency, this is not true of all, obviously. But, you know, like, I think about, like, even, like, you know, rape revenge stories, like, or, like, you know, something like Game of Thrones where you see all of these assaults happen, whereas, like, stories where, like, it's written by women, like, you don't see the women you don't see the assault happen. And I think there's something at play here, too, where, like, really all that needed to happen is Spike needed to say this. Like, he needed to say, like, even if he just threatened to do this, and then had the recognition, or even if he tried to and this chick prevented him, that's all that needed to happen. But we have to live in it before and after a commercial break in a way that we didn't need to see, and that Joss Whedon did not need to put those actors through. Yeah. Like, James Marsters, and this was far before the era of intimacy coordinators, but, like, we did not, like, Sarah Michelle Gellar didn't need to go through this, and James Marsters didn't need to go through. We just needed the threat of him going to do this for it to be enough, and then I think there's more of a chance for him to come back from it, right, if he just, like, says he could do this, or like and not that would be good, not that would be, like, good for him to threaten to assault her, but, like, I think that we just didn't need it to go as far as it did in order for the message to get across. And I do think it is such a exclusively male director, cisgender male director thing to be like, we need to see this assault happen, right, in order for the audience to get it. And it's like, I got it without you needing to have it be shown. And now that you've had it be shown, you can't convince me to like this character again. You can't. Right. Sorry.
Well, and I think that's how a lot of people feel. And that's why it's just so annoying to me that it's like, prior to this episode, Spike is on a redemption arc, but Joss Whedon, for whatever reason, is like, no. We need to show you how evil he is, and the only way he can be redeemed is through this mystical, if he has a soul again. But it's like, right, the assault is just so grounded and real, and, like, here's the thing. I am not somebody...
It doesn't feel like a vampire, like...
No, like,
there's nothing supernatural about it. It is a man... assault. You're watching a human man assault it feels like just like a regular degular rape scene. Right. Like, it is.
And Buffy is in the bathroom. She's in her robe. It's like, even though she is, like, always seen as this physically strong character, like, who can fight any...
Right. Like, why doesn't she fight him? She does try to fight him off, but, like, she doesn't do, like, there's so many scenes in the show where she, like, kicks a vampire in the chest and they go flying.
Right.
That doesn't happen here. Like, it is like, it feels like you're watching Sarah Michelle Gellar fight off James Marsters, not Buffy the Vampire Slayer fight off a vampire.
Right. And the real issue that I have with this scene, like, in the, like, meta of it all, is that this was, like, deeply uncomfortable for these two actors, and that these two real people who were working were harmed by this. Yeah. I am actually not somebody who is completely opposed to the idea of ever showing an assault on screen. I think that there are times and, like, contexts where I think that could be done in a way that is not harmful, at the very least to the actors that you have trying to portray that assault.
I think it's really hard to have an actor do that and not have it be horrible for the actors.
Right. And I am not a director. I'm not somebody who creates art in that way.
I have blocked a sexual assault before that, like, fortunately ended up getting cut because it sucked for the two people, no matter how. Specifically, it sucked for the guy. Yeah. And, like, I know that sounds awful, but, like, this was like
I think it's hard. He is going to work. He is going to work, and you're asking him to, like, do something that is, like, really fucked up.
Yeah, and, like, obviously it was hard for the woman too, but, like, you know, this guy, he was like, I don't want to do this on stage. Like, I don't want to I don't want to do this on stage. And it's like, I don't think we need to see this to understand that he's evil. And like, it's never referenced again. Like, we just didn't, it got cut, to be clear. It got cut. But it was really like, he was like, I don't want to do this. She was like, I don't want, like, neither of them wanted to do it. And we blocked it, and I made it as like mechanical as possible. Like, it was all to counts. Like, we blocked it like it was choreography. It was behind a screen, which also was helpful. So they didn't really even need to be that close to each other because it was basically like in a shadow puppet thing. But it still was like, I had to go. He was 15 years older than, not 15, like 10, 12 years older than me. She was significantly, so it's also like their choreographer, who was not a trained intimacy coordinator, but was asked to do this. And when I said no, they were like, well, then the director, who was this like 80-year-old man, was going to do it. And I was like, fine. So it also puts me in a weird position.
Right.
As a victim of having to like block this assault. And it was such a horrible situation that even though we did it with the most care and concern that three people could possibly do, it was such a horrific thing that you did not need to see. We ended up cutting it. And all that you saw happen instead was he carried her on. Because she's supposed to be, like, drugged out at the time in the scene that... And what ended up happening is we had him carry her out and deposit her on the dock.
Yeah.
And, like, throw drugs at her. And, like, that was the implication.
Yeah.
And it's
well,
like,
that's all
that
you
was
need.
enough.
That's all you need.
That's all you need. And that's usually my thing with assault scenes is, like, I don't really ever think they're worth putting the actor through. Because in Buffy... the thing that where they cut to before commercial break where he's like first pins her, that's enough.
Yeah.
We didn't need to see them fight for 2 more minutes after the commercial break. We could have cut there and then had the next scene be Xander coming in and finding her and have her just say, like, I fought him off. So you know he didn't actually, like, no actual, like, penetration occurred. That would have been enough. We did not need to have poor Sarah Michelle Gellar and James Marsters go through minutes of this and minutes of us watching it, which means they had to shoot it for so much longer than that.
Well, yeah.
With so many people in the room staring at them do this.
Well, I'm sure that's why James Marsters is like, I will never do a scene like this again, because it's like, imagine if just fucking, I mean, it's fucked up. It's fucked up to have to live in it. It's fucked up to have to do it. And then also it's like, hey, great. Now for the rest of all time, there is essentially a video of you pretending to rape someone.
And also... like, he didn't believe it was right for the character, and he fought against it happening. Not just because he didn't want to do it, because he was like, Spike wouldn't do this.
Right.
He was like, at this point...
well, and it doesn't. It doesn't fucking make sense for Spike to try to rape Buffy. It just doesn't.
No. And especially because, like, you watch him feel bad about it as he's, like, he realizes it's wrong. And that's why I think it would be enough for him to just say, like, I could do this to you and you wouldn't be able to stop me.
Right.
Like, that would have been enough. And I think hearing someone say that to you is enough for you to be like, whoa, holy shit. What? Especially because we, like, have seen him do something sexually weird before in having this robot version of her that he... but, like, the show doesn't view that as weird as it actually is.
I know.
Oh, there was another thing I was going to say about it. But anyway, he didn't believe that this was necessary. So it's like, he doesn't believe... and it's just, like, it's so horrible. And it's like, it's just, like, you can't come back from it. And then I guess what you're saying is the show, it makes you be like, and he comes back from it. And it's like, no.
The show nothing burgers it really hard, which is what is so fucked up too.
Yeah. And it just, like, sucks. Oh, the thing I was gonna say is, like, the episode starts with him having already done something horrible. Of him having had sex with Anya.
Yeah.
Which she is upset about. And so we already see that Buffy is upset about this. She's dealing with the fact that she is upset about it. There is like, that's why it's like, I think there's a version of the scene that goes like, you're clearly upset about me having sex with Anya. You are clearly upset about this. Something is going on here more than just you using me for sex because you're hurting. You wouldn't be upset about me having sex with Anya if there wasn't something here.
Right. Well, and that's what the show wants us to, like, believe that is what's, like, that is Spike's motivation and why he keeps pushing is because he wants Buffy to finally admit, like, you care about me.
Right. And it's like, having him say something fucked up, I think does the same thing as actually having him assault her. Because then her just being like, and that is why the fact that your brain even goes there to you could force me to love you is why I don't love you. Like, that's the conversation that needed to happen. And that would be enough for him to go, I need to go get a soul because she will never believe that I can love her if I don't have this thing.
Yeah.
And that is such a fucking easy rewrite that, like, then doesn't put these two actors and the audience through this horrible thing and, like, gives him a shot of redemption, I think. But, like, as it's like, there's just, like, I can't unsee that.
Well, also, like, what is kind of fucked up, too, is that, let's just say, seeing Red has not happened. We're at everything before seeing Red, okay?
Yeah.
Like, essentially what you have is a dynamic between two people where one person genuinely cares about the other person and somebody is like, I am having sex with you, but it means nothing to me and I actually don't fucking care about you at all. Prior to seeing Red, I think justifiably, some people see Spike as being kind of victimized within that dynamic, which is why seeing Red happened.
Right.
Or why Joss Whedon wrote seeing Red to happen, to be clear.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're 100% right, which is like, it's like, we don't want to see Spike as the victim, and so we need to have him do something fucking horrible. And I think it's like, there's a way to do it where it's like, the chip stops him, something happens where it's like, this doesn't actually occur. Because it's like...
Well, it's also why I just don't think it makes sense to have Spike do this in general, because it's like, you've just built up this arc with this character where it's like, he is now, like, deeply in love with this person who is like, I am having sex with you because I feel nothing except for when I'm with you, and we have this, like, close emotional entanglement. Like, frankly, the way the show is written before seeing Red, it's like, the logical outcome of this is that Buffy, like, comes to terms with the fact that she loves Spike. Like, that is, like, what the natural progression of that is, and that's why seeing Red is just a fucking axe to it. It just doesn't make, like, it just does not make sense with the flow that the narrative has created.
But that's what I mean. It's just that Joss Whedon just does not view this scene with the gravity that I think most people watching this scene viewed it with. Like, I just
because he thinks the show is about something else.
Well, and it's like, but I just don't think he views it with the, because again, he then thinks that Spike can come back from this, and it's like, hey, no.
Yeah.
It's like, actually, no. It's interesting that it happens in this season too, because Warren, who is sort of like the main villain of the first half of this season, like, does some incel shit. Mm-hmm. And, like, is bad, but a lot of it is played for laughs. And like, just, like, things that, you know, Xander says and does. It's like, I just think that Joss Whedon doesn't respect women.
No, I mean, that's apparent. I mean, I really don't even want to get into Joss Whedon's behavior. Yeah. But, like, for anyone who doesn't know, Joss Whedon is kind of a miserable fucking person who is just miserable to the people he works with. And there are basically no people who are like, I loved working with Joss Whedon. Kind of everybody thinks he's a huge fucking dick.
Yeah, and I think that, like it's just so apparent in the way, the attitude that is expressed by almost every man in this show towards any of the women they claim to love in this show is so gross. Yeah. Is so yucky and bad. While this scene makes no sense to me, and I don't think it needed to happen, I get why Joss Whedon put it there, because this is just, I think, I think he viewed it as a tool to get Spike to go be like, I need to get my soul back. Yeah. And it's like, but it doesn't change that it happened and that Buffy is not just going to be able to be okay with it. Right. I also think there's a weird thing in this show. It goes back to sort of what I was saying about this, like, Reddit thread I was reading where people were justifying her and Angel having sex. And it's like, I think with all of these shows, because there's a supernatural thing going on, we go, yeah, well, Norman human morality out the window, which is so true, but you still have a normal human audience watching it. And, like, they are still going to be affected by their own normal human experiences. And, like, I, a person who was preyed on by men who was older than me when I was between the ages of 14 to 16, am gonna feel a certain way about a 26-year-old ancient man wanting to have sex with a 16, 17-year-old girl. I, someone who has been assaulted, am going to have a specific reaction to watching a man assault a woman, even if the rules are different, even if worse things have happened to Buffy, these are all big air quotes going on, like, even if, like, it doesn't matter, because your audience is still bringing real human baggage to the narrative, and you have to take that into account even when you're creating a world where the rules are different. And like when you're creating a world in which like he is already like I don't want to go back to the sex robot thing, but like we've already seen that like his interest is in like he's basically done this thing where they're fighting, and then they start having sex, and it's like so like. And this scene has such a different tenor than that because it's clear that, like, I don't know, we've just, like, seen him kind of want this, but it's just, like, it's so icky. It's so icky for so many reasons. So, Aubrey, okay, do you feel in the Buffy fandom that there are people who are still horny for Spike after this happens?
I will say in, like, the modern Buffy fandom, I think most people who I have seen talk about this online basically are like, I love Spike as a character. Joss Whedon really fucked up a lot of Spike's writing. So I think there are people who are horny for Spike prior to this. And
yeah.
And I think that there is a lot of, like, fan revision of, like, you know, like, fan fictions that are basically just, like, seeing red didn't happen. And, and that like, that's the context for this fan fiction is seeing red didn't happen. And, like,
sure.
So I think that there's, like, revision in that way. I haven't come across anyone who is, like, that was justified. That was justified, and that was actually fine that he did that because he was just, like, so in love with Buffy. But I think that that is a lot of, like, modern fans who are talking and, like, watching it retrospectively. I'm sure at the time, there were probably fans who were like, no, he loved her. It was fine.
Well, because I'd imagine that for me, like, I don't know how, obviously I've not seen the rest of the series.
There's actually a lot. Most of the fucking fans that I have seen, like, talk about Buffy do not like Spike and Buffy.
Okay.
Like Spike and Buffy, I think, was popular at the time, and I think when people watch it retrospectively, do not actually fuck with Buffy.
Okay. Because I'm like, I feel like I'm kind of in that camp. I fuck with Spike. I like Spike as a character up until this point.
Me too.
I like the writing. I think he's funny. I'm like giggling, kicking my feet at some of these scenes of him like being goofy. And
James Marsters does such a great like he really, again, I'm similar to like when we talked about like Rumpelstiltskin, like he, I think, is giving like a fantastic performance that really elevates the rest of the show.
Yeah. And so like, I think that like, I up until this point was like very delighted by this character. To me, this happens if I was just watching the show and we were like not doing it in this way and like you would not prime me for this happening, I do think that I would have gotten to this point in the show and then when they brought Spike back probably and saw that they were going to redeem him, probably would have stopped watching the show.
Yeah.
Because I would have been like, hey, I actually can't do this, guys. Unless the next thing that happens is she chops his fucking head off or he becomes the major villain for the rest of the series. I can't do this. And so I would be curious to know what the fan reaction at the time was to like him returning and this all like soul beckoning and stuff. But yeah, I already was like, hey girl, stay away from him. He likes you too much. Mm-hmm. And then like even how you're describing the lead up to this, it's like then I feel bad for him because I'm like, oh no, don't. She's using you, bud.
Right.
She's using you, big dog. Like that's not good.
Well, that's what the audience is basically told, and not because Buffy says explicitly, like, I am using you.
And like it's like then the arc of some incel shit happening isn't that shocking, but then it needs to stay bad. Like then he needs to go full evil incel and don't try to bring it back to like, oh, and they're gonna be friends again now.
Well, he either needs to go full evil incel or it needs to not happen and you explore the progression of that relationship like as just kind of like a toxic relationship between two people who like care for each other but can't commit but are drawn to each other but repel each other. Like and that to me is still compelling to watch.
I think there's still like a mid option that I like if I were to have suggested a rewrite. If I was in this writer's room and this scene came down in front of me and I was like, can I suggest a rewrite that can still lead to Spike leaving and deciding he needs to get the chip out of his head? I would have suggested a rewrite wherein he just like makes a threat or goes to do it and can't. And like we acknowledge the fact that this is an act of violence that the chip would prevent him from doing.
Even if he like goes to like grab her and then he can't. I think that's enough.
Yeah. And her being like, see, you will always try to hurt me. Like, I think there is...
That, to me, is more powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I think if we see...
And then that actually makes his redemption arc make sense. If it's like, he goes to grab her, he can't. She's like, see, I fucking told you. And then he's...
This is why I can't love you, because you are still a vampire. You do not have a soul. You will try to hurt me. You have to give him a reason to want something.
And then he's horrified, goes on his mission, gets his soul, comes back. And then that, I think, opens the door for the relationship that they actually have until the remainder of the show. Because the remainder of the show is so fucking weird, because now it's like Spike being like, I have a soul, see, Buffy, I redeemed myself, and she's just kind of like, meh, go fuck yourself a little bit, Spike, and then he fucking dies in the end for her.
Yeah, and it's just like, this is my whole problem with like wanting the shock value of watching an assault happen that I feel like so it's just, I mean, this is shit happening in Game of Thrones too, where it's just like, it's like the shock value of like seeing this happen is not worth it, because then you can't do anything from there. You cannot do anything from there, whereas if you had a thing in his brain that would have stopped him from doing this, and you could have used that to have a direct option of her to be like, see, this is why I can't love you. This is why I won't love you. Yeah. And you have the angel thing hanging over their whole relationship, so you could have had him be like, I need to go be like Angel. Like, every show should let me fix it.
Yeah. We could have a whole podcast where this was a concept for a podcast I had, remember? It was you watch a bad movie, and then you talk about how you would rewrite it to be a good movie.
Oh yeah, we talked about this after I watched Across the Universe.
Oh, I love Across the Universe.
I know, that's when we first talked about this, because I was like, I could fix this movie.
It needs no fixing. Across the Universe is perfect to me.
But yeah, I totally get the interest in Spike as like a Loki-esque, sexy, Rumpelstiltskin-esque
and
chaos
he's the
goblin.
Blueprint. Like, I think Loki is a character because Spike was a character.
Yeah, and he's like, even like, I mean, Tom Hiddleston as Loki is just serving Spike with black hair.
Yes!
But like, I think that like, so I totally get the interest in him up until this point. I think, given the weird Buffy sex bot, I don't think those two characters should have ever been together. I do, however, like the idea of her taking advantage of the fact that he likes her in order to like get something from him. That's interesting to me, and like makes her a more complicated character in many ways. I don't like that her touching him when he doesn't know what's going on is framed as a joke and not as her Loki kind of assaulting him. And I don't like watching a sexual assault play out on screen and then have Joss Whedon go, and then he'll get his soul back and you won't have to care about this anymore. I think Mackenna Goodrich will go. Wow, I said my full name at a time when I was not introducing myself on this podcast. I think I will probably go back from where I left off in Buffy, which is like 3/4 of the way through season 2, and watch probably up through this point again, because I was so delighted by what was going on up till that point. And then I think I will probably stop. I don't think I will ever watch this episode again, and I will watch whatever the episode before Seeing Red is and go, wow, great ending to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Can't believe the show got canceled mid-season.
Yeah. And I think you could watch the finale after that.
Yeah. Well, Aubrey, what's your PO? I mean, I guess you wanted to do this as sort of like a longer episode. So like, how do you feel like Spike fits into the rest of these bad men we've been talking about?
I mean, I feel like really we're talking about redemption arcs, and like, I think that at their best, stories don't redeem villains. I think that they let them change in ways that feel honest and earned. Like, when I think about Zuko, we see change that we watch happen. When we think about Loki, we're thinking about change that unfolds over time. But at the worst, with these redemption arcs, I think that they try to control how we feel about a character after we've already established who that character is, right? Like, they're trying to do some kind of revisionist history. Like, I think with Snape, like, we're told about this change after he dies. With Spike, it's a change. It's just a rewriting of this entire character and this whole recontextualization. For some reason, this entire episode, I've been thinking about the end of How I Met Your Mother, because How I Met Your Mother is a fantastic sitcom up until quite literally the last 60 seconds of the show. Because
I would say most of the finale is tough, but
I think that there is a point of the finale though where you can just like end it and you're like, cool.
Yeah, oh, sure.
Right, like, especially I'm talking about how in How I Met Your Mother, essentially it starts with this character, Ted Mosby, who is in love with this woman, Robin, but the show is called How I Met Your Mother, and you know that Robin is not the mother of his children. And so you see this arc of, like, Ted meeting his future wife, and throughout the show, Robin ends up falling in love with Barney, who's another character on the show, and the end of the show is them getting married. The entire last season is dedicated to the day of Barney and Robin's wedding. And then in the very last, like, minute of the show, Ted is like, hey kids, yeah, I met your mom at the wedding, and then we had you, and then your mom fucking died, and I've actually been in love with your Aunt Robin the entire time, and... No.
He does not say that.
He doesn't, but it is what the show says.
He tells this whole story. I know, but this is important. He tells this whole story. It takes fucking a million seasons. We find out that Robin and Barney have gotten divorced.
They got divorced like immediately.
Okay. Yeah. We were like, okay.
Barney who was like, yeah, I love you and will do anything for you. And Robin's like, okay, I'm gonna go travel for work. And he's like, no.
It's stupid. That whole thing, that's stupid. Tells this whole story. Tells the story of how they met the mom. Mom is dead. Yada, yada, yada. And then the kids go, Dad, this sounds like a whole story about how you've always been in love with Aunt Robin.
False.
It's the fucking kids. It's the kids who say it. And then he, like, runs to go kiss Robin, and that's how the show ends.
And it's because the creators of the show were like, oh, we always had this idea of exactly how we wanted the show to end, so we stayed true to that. And I think ultimately that's what I'm thinking about when we're talking about these redemption arcs, is that there are certain pieces of media where I think...
Oh my god, so Jamie Lannister.
Like I think the writers are just obsessed with, like, this idea of, like, this is the arc of this character that I have decided since day one.
Yeah.
But when you have a piece of media that goes for multiple years... I just think that you have to understand that you are writing a living document. You are writing a living narrative. And at some point, you lose a little bit of control over that, and you need to be able to adapt and, like, meld your narrative into what it is becoming in front of you, rather than trying to keep it on this fixed path. Because that's, like, the issue that I have with Spike. It's the issue that I have with How I Met Your Mother. It's just like, why did you feel like you had to end things this way when you didn't write that story? You wanted to write that story, but you didn't. You wrote a different story.
I feel like Jamie Lannister is someone who we could very well put in a very similar category to... Jamie Lannister from Game of Thrones is someone who we could put in, like, a very similar category to the character we've been talking about here. And I think very similarly, like, has this really beautiful arc to redemption, especially with Brienne. And then the writers went, he's gonna go back to Cersei and they're gonna die together. And you're like, no, then what was the point of all of this? What was the point of all of this if he was just gonna go back and die in a crumbling building with Cersei? And it's just like...
And I think that's the thing, too, with the fact that these characters are villainous characters, is because the creators of the shows want to be like, yep, and villains are gonna be villains, because there's good and there's evil, even though we had this whole narrative where we, like, tore apart how there are complexities and not binaries of morality.
You watched Game of Thrones?
No.
Oh, I thought you did end up watching it after everyone had watched it.
No, I saw before my eyes when every Game of Thrones fan in my life during that last season looked more and more miserable with each passing week, and I was delighted.
I was trying to think of more characters that I feel fall into this category. I would be so curious, given your opinion on Spike and Buffy, for if you watched Game of Thrones, what your opinion on Jamie Lannister would be, and what your opinion on, I mean, a little bit Daemon in Vampire Diaries, but more than Daemon, I think they do something similar with Klaus.
Oh, I do fuck with Klaus. I do fuck with Klaus.
Because I think Klaus is really, like, basically bar for bar Spike, and also that he is also British.
Not all men. Not all men.
What?
Some men. Klaus is all men.
Yeah, because I think that, like, they do something similar with Klaus
sexy.
and Caroline. Yeah.
Klaus is so sexy.
Okay, so you did get to that point in Vampire Diaries.
I got to, like, the point where Klaus shows up, and then I watched a compilation of moments with him and Caroline.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so they do a very similar thing with I think Klaus and Caroline, where he like kind of gets obsessed with her. Yeah, and then the Jamie thing is really tough because you're like, you really go on a whole ass journey. Like the first episode of Game of Thrones, Jamie kicks a child out of a window and permanently disables him. But then by the end, you're like, wait, he's like grown and changed as a person. And then he goes, I mean, I literally through the last episode of Game of Thrones was like, okay, he's gonna kill Cersei. I was like, he's gonna be like, I have to be the one to kill Cersei. And then they just die in a crumbling building, and it's like, what the fuck was the point of all of this then?
Because for some reason, they were like, this was how we wanted it to end from the beginning. These characters were always this way.
Well, I think with Game of Thrones, they were like, fuck, we don't know how this is gonna end, so we just gotta like do some shit, and none of it was good.
The writer's room was barren.
And no one liked that.
Nobody liked that.
Well, Aubrey, I think this is what we're planning on being the last episode of this series. So any closing thoughts on the bad men?
No, I think sometimes bad men are good men. Sometimes bad men are bad men. And at the end of the day, aren't we all a little bit bad and a little bit good? And
a little bit men.
A little bit men. And depending on who is writing the narrative that surrounds your life, there are some stories where you are the bad man, and there are some stories where you are the good man. And I do think that we are all capable of, like, redemption in our own lives. And I think that pieces of media that show positive redemption arcs are really satisfying to me, because I think everyone has done things in their life where they are like, I am a villain for doing that, and it is possible to atone for bad things that you have done. And I think that that is good to show in media. And also, I think that some people are just bad, and maybe some people shouldn't be redeemed.
And I'm like, also, like, I mean, I think that's the thing that we haven't talked about. Like Spike can totally go off and, like, be a better man. Sure. Don't come back to the people who you hurt in this regard. I just feel like Spike should go off on his soul quest and go be on his soul quest and not return. He just should go, like, he should be like, oh, I fucked up and I need to be better. But he doesn't need to come back and then try to, like, be with Buffy again. Like, no, nah, you're good.
Right.
Sometimes you create enough harm that you don't get to go back to the people that you harmed.
Well, and even the show is fucking dumb with that, because Buffy's just like, I guess you're here now.
Yeah, I mean, because I can say this from my own perspective. Like, the person who really harmed me tried to come back, and a lot of people, this is someone I went to college with, he tried to come to our college reunion, and it didn't go well for him. And I don't think that he has to be a bad person forever. I don't think he deserves to be dead. I just think that he should try to move on with his life and be a better person, but not try to be around any of the people who he hurt when he did bad things. And, like, that is a thing that I wish more shows would embrace, is that, like, yeah, you can totally move on from horrible shit that you did and, like, be a better person, but maybe be a better person somewhere else with different people, and not try to go back to the people who you hurt and be like, can you forgive me so I can feel better about this? And that's why I just know that Joss Whedon might be a bad person, because, like, if that's his opinion on things, yeah.
Do you know what show perfectly encapsulates the arc you're describing?
What show?
BoJack Horseman.
Oh, I mean, literally, it's the scene where he goes and tries to. I watched the scene where he goes and apologizes to Herb.
Oh, Herb. No, there's another character who he, like, basically would have had, like, sex with, who was a teenager. And
this is the girl who was the youngest girl on the show.
What? No. That's a different girl. There's another. Basically, oh my god, there's so much BoJack Horseman lore that I can tell you. Basically, there is a, like, essentially a what if girl in BoJack's life, and then he goes and meets her and her family and her teen daughter, and he basically takes the teen daughter to prom, and then afterwards the teen daughter is kind of, like, hanging out on his bed, and he doesn't tell her to leave, and then the mom comes in and is like, what the fuck? Get the fuck out of my house. And basically, like, there is, it follows BoJack, and there is a point where he tries to, like, make amends, and it is really bad. And, like, yeah, part of the arc of BoJack is him realizing that, like, I've like hurt people so badly and I just like don't get to be a part of their lives anymore.
Yeah. And I won't do spoilers for this because it's a show that's ongoing, but I'm really curious about, there is not having to do with sexual violence at all, but there is a plot on The Pit where a character does something really fucked up during season 1, and they're like dealing with the like forgiveness cycle of that during season 2 right now. And I'm really curious how they're going to play that out, because I think it could go in a few different directions. And I was watching Buffy last night and I was like, oh, I think people who like Spike would also really like
redacted character name
on The Pit. So Aubrey, I'd be also curious if you start watching The Pit. When you watch The Pit in 4 years, I'll be curious on what you think about
redacted character name.
I'll do it right after Game of Thrones.
No, that's not the same thing. Shut up. Watch The Pit. Everyone go watch The Pit. Have a question or a topic that you would like for us to discuss? Send us an email at informedattraction@gmail.com.